Welcome back to the show. David Bradley is a professor of creative writing at the University of Oregon, and we had a fascinating discussion with him about a month ago about a proposal to redact the N-word from Mark Twain's classic novel Huckleberry Finn. He was on 60 Minutes making the case that we shouldn't. Anyway, we've got another fascinating story involving black politics and the black experience in America with the rise of Herman Cain as a leading candidate in the Republican primaries. Professor Bradley thinks might well change, but right now it looks like an all-black presidential race is a possibility. Professor Bradley, you're joining me now by phone. We had some technical problems with Skype, but thanks for being on the phone. Are you surprised by how well Herman Cain is doing in the Republican primaries?
Oh, I'm very surprised, especially in Florida. I mean, it's a very strange phenomenon. Looks like the old Republican Party back in the days of Theodore Roosevelt.
Well, I've looked at Herman Cain, and I think he's a man of great substance. I mean, educationally, he's got a mathematics degree, he's got a computer science degree. In terms of his career, he turned around Burger King. He made Godfather's Pizza profitable. He was the chairman of the Federal Reserve Bank of Kansas City. I mean, these are serious accomplishments. And he's got a serious economic plan. I mean, I don't think he's just the flavor of the week. I think in fact, I'd say he's become the Tea Party candidate. Do you think this is just a momentary shuffling of the deck, or can you explain it? Help me explain it.
Well, I think at this point in the Republican primary system, I mean, it's all just a reshuffling of the deck. I mean, people are going to come and go, and who knows? The eventual nominee may not even be in the race at this point, but I think what he has done, and I agree with you that his credentials, people want to dismiss him and make jokes about the Pizza King and whatnot and so forth. But when you look at not only what he has done, but the culture that he represents, it's an America that has not been heard from, and it is different from the black America of Barack Obama. Well, a lot of people are going to find a home where they did not find one before.
Well, I want to play a clip, and this is Herman Cain talking about racism in America, and he says, yeah, it exists, but it exists sometimes as an excuse. And let's roll the clip, Ricky, if you can, of Herman Cain talking about being black in business.
I have seen blacks in middle management move up to top management in some of the biggest corporations in America. They weren't held back because of racism. No, people sometimes hold themselves back because they want to use racism as an excuse for them not being able to achieve what they want to achieve.
Now, what do you think of that? Here's a guy who I would say in many ways is the opposite of Barack Obama in terms of his psychology, his personality, his field of studies. I mean, he is the opposite of a Harvard elitist. He's a man who worked his way up, and he's saying essentially any black man can do the same thing.
I hope he's not saying that, because that's not true. I think what he's saying, and the part that is true, is that we have over time turned the idea of blacks being held back as an excuse, where in his day and in my day it was not. We were taught differently. We were taught that you had to be twice as good to get half as far, but go out and be twice as good. But that's something that changed in the 60s and 70s to be, I would say more of an excuse. That doesn't mean that racism doesn't exist, and I don't think the picture is as rosy as he seems to imply, but it is rosier than some people would have you think. So he's sort of in the middle, in that sense. And the trouble with the issue is that it gets polarized, so it's all one or all the other.
I want to play a clip from Harry Belafonte, who is, I think, on the left wing of the Democratic Party. There's an anger in this clip I'm about to show you. It almost as if Harry Belafonte feels that Herman Cain is being disloyal. That's how it sounds to me. Let's roll the clip, and then, Professor, I'd like your views on this.
The Republican Party, the Tea Party, all those forces to the extreme right have consistently tried to come up with representation for what they call black, for what they call the real Negroes, and try to push these images as the kinds of voices that America should be living to. So we got Condoleezza Rice, we got Colin Powell. I know they're heroes for some people, but for a lot of us, they're not. And Herman Cain is just the latest incarnation of what is totally false to the needs of our community and the needs of our nation. I think he's a bad apple, and people should look at his whole card. He's not what he says he is.
I disagree with that, Professor. In fact, I would put it, and I'd like you to respond, I would put it that Herman Cain has had more of a real black experience growing up in the segregated South, working his way up than perhaps Barack Obama, who grew up in Indonesia, in Hawaii, a very multiracial state, and then going to elite colleges. Now, I'm not trying to say Herman Cain is blacker than Barack Obama, but I think Harry Belafonte's wrong where he claims Herman Cain is the fake one. I don't know what you think. I'd love to hear it.
Well, I think that first of all, we have to talk about this term African American, because when that began, which is about 25 years ago, before that people were black, and that denoted a certain kind of American experience that came out of the slave experience and so forth and so on. African American is what Barack Obama really is. He's a man whose father was an African, his mother was an American, so he has earned his hyphen. Herman Cain represents the old school, and a very old school. I mean, he went to a black college, a good black college, but he went to a black college. And he did that in the 60s at a time when, the identity was different. He represents a black middle class that, like I say, goes back to the old Republican Party. I mean, there used to be room for conservative black people, and a lot of black people remain conservative. It's just that the only home that has been available to us since about 1964 has been the Democratic Party. And I think one of the things that will happen now is that Democrats are going to have to start thinking about what they're doing to earn their black support. I don't think Obama has done very much to do that. Just as an instigator of a conversation about identity and what it really means and who cares if the president's black or not, I think, Cain's contribution is great.
I'm glad to hear you say that. I feel that same way, too. I want to close with one last question. I know it's just a fantasy scenario, but what do you think it would mean for America if both candidates of the major ticket parties on the ticket in 2012 were black, especially the Republican, because that's not traditionally the home of black voters? Just daydream with me for 30 seconds. What would it be like to have a campaign of two black men, one of whom is going to win, but both of whom who are living the experience? What would it mean for black America? What would it mean for the Republicans? What would it mean for white America? What would it mean for the world?
I think it would mean that for the first time in a long time, America would certainly have a viable third-party candidate.
You're a pessimist. You're a pessimist.
I'm a realist.
I want to be excited about it. I'm excited about Herman Cain because he's a man of tremendous substance, and the fact that he's black, call that a political bonus, but I love the fact that he's not running on his blackness. He's running on his merits, and he just happens to be black, and that's the America I want.
Well, I think that would be a great thing, but what I really think is that we aren't ready to do that yet. I think we're ready to talk about his economic plan. I think we are ready to talk about, which has some problems and has some issues, and I think we're ready to talk about a lot of other things. But I think at the end of the day, the Republican Party is going to be the Republican Party.
Professor Bradley, I'm really glad you joined us today from Eugene, Oregon. Thanks for being here. Hey.